Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thought we'd do a fun little video today. One of the most common questions I get asked, it's always down in the comment section, it's always getting emailed to me, is should I buy this product or should I buy that product? So I thought we'd do a little bit of this versus that. So we're going to face it all around booster boxes. I've got a couple of examples for you to go through. Should you invest in this booster box right now or should you invest in that booster box right now? I've got a sword and shield example for you and also a much more modern example including phantasmal flames. The most common questions I get asked. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name's Michael /PokeOz. We talk all things Pokemon card investing here. 2026 already off to a start, isn't it? And we're seeing a massive resurgence in the market. Thanks everyone that tunes into the channel. Your support means a lot. Before we jump into the two examples though, I want to talk to you about booster boxes in particular. Like what makes them investable and more so, like who are the buyers of booster boxes in the future? Because the fact of the matter is, with Pokemon card investing, whether it's singles or sealed, the only way you make money, so the only way your investment comes to light is if you sell. It's as simple as that. And I know that sounds like a no-brainer. What your app says in Collector in terms of what your value is, like, yes, it's important, but it means nothing unless you sell it. All these losses people were talking about, like the 15% reductions, the 20% reductions we saw towards the latter end of 2025, which is now rebounding quite quickly, that doesn't matter. It's just on paper. The only thing that matters is when you sell. And that's what's got to happen, doesn't it? You buy a booster box for $180, you sell it for $700 in 6 years' time, you lock in your profit then. After fees and taxes and everything else in between, you know, you might pocket $400 or $500 across that time. And if you do that across 100 booster boxes, well, fantastic. But my point is, there needs to be a buyer for that booster box for you to be able to lock in those profits. And let's talk about booster box buyers. So who is buying booster boxes in the future? Because predominantly there's a big, when a set first comes out and a booster box first gets released, there's a huge push, a big push towards people just opening it to rip packs and hopefully pull the chase cards from the set. But things change as it gets older. So as a booster box gets older, our market actually lessens, so our volume of that booster box selling lessens, as in there's less people buying it because, well, predominantly there's less on the market and new sets come out and attention turns towards those. So who are the buyer types? The first one is the avid collector. There are collectors just of sealed products. There is people that want to buy every single Elite Trainer box and every single booster box in existence. Now, booster box is going to be a more difficult one, but what happens there is those collectors, whether they start now, whether they started 6 months ago, whether they started 18 months ago, they will go back in time to a certain degree where their funds allow them to buy up extra sealed product. So what that means is the collector might go, well, I've got every single Scarlet and Violet booster box, I've got every single Sword and Shield booster box, except Evolving Skies because it's just a little bit too dear. So what I'm going to do is save up a couple months worth of pay and then I'm going to go buy myself that Evolving Skies booster box. Or it might be Fusion Strike, or it might be they've gone all the way back to Sun and Moon and they want that Team Up booster box. My point is, collectors of sealed product do go back in time and do buy booster boxes. So that is one segment you can sell to as a booster box gets older. The second segment is the investor. Now, they might be a collector at heart as well, but they're predominantly buying the booster box solely as an investment vehicle. As in, they're not going to rip it, they're not going to display it, they're just going to sit it in the cupboard and hope over time that it appreciates in value, and they're either going to be able to sell it to one of the other buyer types, a collector, or I'll get into the other ones shortly, maybe another investor. And that's the thing, sometimes it is literally investors selling to investors. Like someone buys a Chilling Reign booster box at $100 at launch back in 2021, and then they sell it to an investor now for $400 or $500, whatever the price is up to for a Chilling Reign booster box. And that person might literally just be buying it to sit it aside until it gets to $1,000 a booster box and then sell it again. And maybe it gets sold to another investor. Maybe it gets sold to a collector. You get my point. The second buying type is an investor. The third buying type, and this is probably a slightly smaller buying type as sets get older, is just the nostalgia buyer. Like they're literally just buying it so them and their mates or them and their partner or them and their kids, whoever it might be, can just open that pack or open that booster box and relive some memories. Now that's a pretty small buying type, but it is a buying type. And then the fourth buying type is this massive surge we have when it comes to both YouTube streamers, whatnot, all the rip and shippers that are out there that are literally going back in time, buying booster boxes because it's got the most dense pack ratio, and then either selling them off or ripping them on stream to, I suppose, make an income off of, essentially. And then, of course, giving out the hits to those people that bought into the packs. So they're essentially your 4 buying types when it comes to booster boxes. That's really, really important to remember, because when we rate these booster boxes, should I buy this booster box or should I buy that booster box? Your buying type is really important. And that's the big question. Out of all those buying types, what matters? Like, what makes a booster box even worth anything? Like, what makes an Evolving Skies booster box worth more than a Lost Origin booster box? What makes a Lost Origin booster box worth more than a Rebel Clash booster box? And to me, it's one very, very simple answer. And of course, it's the hits inside the set. If there was no hits inside the set, like literally nothing, and the most expensive card was worth $1, like, people just aren't going to care about opening it. People aren't going to care as much about collecting it. The rip and shippers are just not going to be able to sell the packs, so that market dies. The investor will go, well, this isn't a good investment because, yes, okay, all Pokemon card sets probably go up over time, but without the chase cards inside here, it's probably going to appreciate pretty damn slowly. So I think that is the most important thing when you look at, should I buy this booster box or should I buy that booster box? The hits inside it are the most important. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of examples now. Before we do, though, let's take a look at and give a big thanks to today's video sponsor, which is, of course, the Collector app. There'll be a link in the description to download it. You can follow my journey down below. Some new products being added for 2026. Buying the dip is the plan of attack. And what an app. So good. Like, you can add in all your sealed and singles collection. There's things you can do now on this app that are crazy. You can compare trades. That's a massive one now. Like, that's another question I get asked all the time. Like, should I trade this for this? You can literally punch the products or the cards or the slabs in now, and it'll tell you if it's a fair trade. Like, how easy is that? Market movers, you can look at your portfolio and see what market movers are changing. There's pro user options. You can sign up to become a pro user and unlock heaps and heaps of data. There's set analytics about every single set and product in there. It's just your whole one-stop shop for anything Pokemon card investing and data related. So that is an awesome app. Collector, again, link in the description. So a couple of examples. And when we talk about the top hits, I'm just going to bring this up on the screen first to show you what I mean. I've got the 3 most expensive Sword and Shield sets up on the screen here. We've got Evolving Skies in the middle. We've also got Fusion Strike on there and Lost Origin. Look at the top hits. Like, why is Evolving Skies so expensive? Why is Fusion Strike expensive? Why are these the best 3 sets from the whole Sword and Shield era? It's for this reason. It's the top hits inside the set. Now, moreover than that, I could extend this out to the top 10 hits or top 15 hits, and what you'll see, Evolving Skies just trumps everything. And that's why it's so damn expensive. The top 5 hits are worth a lot of money. The top 10 hits are worth a lot of money. Look at Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike was this underrated set surrounded by the 25th anniversary, surrounded by Brilliant Stars, surrounded by Evolving Skies, that it got left in the shadows a little bit. But look at the top 5 hits. Gengar can well and truly carry a set. We've seen that across multiple eras, multiple generations, multiple sets. Gengar is one of the top fan favorite chase cards for any Pokemon card set. And then moreover than that, Lost Origin at the bottom, Giratina, Pikachu Trainer Gallery, Gengar in the Trainer Gallery, a beautiful Aerodactyl alternate art. Like, this is why. This is why these are so expensive. So I think that's the most important thing to look at when it comes to investing in sets. Now, I'm actually going to leave this up on the screen because my first 2 examples right now is, should you invest in Fusion Strike or should you invest in Lost Origin? Fusion Strike or Lost Origin, this booster box or that booster box. Now, Fusion Strike's rebounded quite quickly back up to nearly $900. I think it's sitting about $870 US, whereas Lost Origin's sitting at $670 US. Lost Origin about $200 US cheaper than Fusion Strike. What's the best example, or what is the better investment out of these 2? And look, this depends on your goals a little bit. Like, are you planning on just holding for 18 months? Are you planning on holding for 5 years? My argument probably is, if you're planning on holding for 18 months, Lost Origin And I said this 6 months ago when I was talking about the best booster box to invest in. I said Lost Origin is the best booster box to invest in from Sword and Shield over the next 2 years. And I probably stand true to that argument. So if we've got 18 months left of that 2-year segment that I said, I think we're going to have to choose Lost Origin across the next 18 months. Fusion Strike at 870, in 18 months time, I maybe see it being like a $1,200 US booster box, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lost Origin climbs above $1,000 and also probably pushes close to $1,100 or $1,200 across the next 18 months. I would not be surprised at all if that happens. Lost Origin for me is the short-term winner if you have a short-term mindset with these boxes. If you have a more long-term mindset, I don't think you can go past Fusion Strike. When we talk about collectability, which is one of your buying markets that I spoke about before, the collectability of the Fusion Strike booster box is phenomenal. It is the best looking booster box in my opinion from the whole Sword and Shield era. It actually has some pop and some color to it. Moreover than that, it also has Mew on the face of the booster box. Mew, in my opinion, probably trumps Giratina, which is on the face of the Lost Origin booster box, which also doesn't have any color to it. Like, it's just white at the top. It's strange. During, halfway through that Sword and Shield period, I think it was after Fusion Strike? Yeah, before we went to Brilliant Stars, that everything went white at the top of the booster box when it's sealed. It's not as collectible or displayable in my opinion. So Fusion Strike will dominate, in my opinion, the collector market for just those that want to buy it as a collection. And then also the rip and shippers. I feel the hunt for the Gengar coupled with the Espeon, you've got two bigger hunts compared to Lost Origin, which really you're just hunting that Giratina. And look, if you get one of the Pikachu trainer galleries or the Gengar or the Charizard trainer gallery, you're probably happy, but you're more happy on Fusion Strike if you pull Gengar, Espeon, one of the two Mews. Don't forget, there's two Mews inside, as you can see on the screen here, two Mews inside Fusion Strike, both the VMAX, which could have been a nicer looking card, but it's still commanding a good price, or the Mew V, which is a really nice looking card, and the Celebi, which is a criminally underrated card. That is one damn good looking artwork, one of the best looking artworks we've seen in a long time across the whole Sword and Shield old art artwork. That is a damn good looking card. I think the top 5 from Fusion Strike is a stronger top 5 than Lost Origin. And as a result, for a long-term investment, like if you're planning on holding 3+ years, 5+ years, or even more than that, Fusion Strike will go down as a very, very expensive Sword and Shield booster box. That is the better long-term investment in my opinion. Now, if you don't want to spend that sort of money, like you don't want to spend $670 on Lost Origin or $870 on Fusion Strike, let's talk about a more modern example. Phantasmal Flames has just come out. I think booster box pricing is somewhere around $240, and a very nice Scarlet and Violet set. Albeit not stellar by any chance, Twilight Masquerade, currently sitting at about $290. So this booster box or that booster box. And I'll bring up the top 5 hits from the two sets inside here. So we have, of course, Phantasmal Flames and Twilight Masquerade. And if you look at the top 5, I can't reiterate the importance of it again. And same thing, if we're talking an 18-month hold, it's just a super no-brainer. Buy Twilight. Just do it. Phantasmal is probably going to cop reprints. There's a chance that it'll still be in rotation when these new printer facilities come up, which we don't know heaps about. Like, I wouldn't go banking decisions on anything to do with that too much at the moment. Like, I think more light needs to come into play there. Is it solely going to be used to print English Pokemon cards? Will it be used to, pump up some other languages? Because don't forget, Millennium Print Group print all the European languages as well. Is it going to be used for other TCGs? Is it going to be used as a more packaging facility? Like, heaps to come out to play there. So I wouldn't bank on anything there. But Phantasmal will be in rotation for a long time compared to Twilight Masquerade. So if it's an 18-month hold, don't even worry about the hits inside here to a degree, just go Twilight. Now, if it's a longer hold, we're talking 5+ years when Phantasmal is well out of rotation. Don't forget, I think we have a generational Charizard inside Phantasmal Flames. This Charizard is one hell of a good looking card. Look, pull rates are quite easy on it. It's 1 in 400 packs. Pricing is still dipping fast. Like, I think we're down to nearly $500 raw now. So just in the matter of 3 weeks, it's gone from $600 to $500. That's moved down $100 very quickly. I suggested when this set first come out, depending on print runs, particularly if we get multiple print runs, there's plenty of supply of this card around. I can see it dipping to a $250 to $300 card Not quickly, but within maybe the next 6 months or so, next 6 to 9 months, I can see it dipping to that price. Now, Greninja, which is the main chase card of Twilight Masquerade, one of the fan favorite Pokemons, love or hate the artwork. Personally, I love it. I think it's one of the nicest special illustration rares we got from the whole Scarlet and Violet era. It is a fan favorite Pokemon, and it's held strong around that $300 US mark for the last 2 years, like since this set came out. Coupled with that, you've got 2 trainer cards, which are more expensive trainer cards than the Dawn that you get from Phantasmal Flames. You've also got a beautiful Eevee. And look, the top 5 I wouldn't say is stellar in Twilight Masquerade, but I think it's a stronger top 5 overall than Phantasmal Flames. I do think bear with me on that statement. I do think the Phantasmal Flames Charizard is a nicer looking special illustration rare than the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. I do think that. Does that mean it'll hold a stronger price? Well, don't forget the Greninja is 1 in 1,000 packs, whereas the Charizard is 1 in 400 packs. So we're going to get a lot more supply of that card unless demand can keep up. And again, there's heaps of demand for it because it's such a good looking card, but unless demand can keep up, then we'll start seeing prices continue to go down on that card. Maybe they sit around the same price. Maybe they both hover around somewhere around that $300 US mark. And even if that's the case, if we look at the top 5 there, the Gold Charizard I think will, pull rates are a lot harder on that, but Gold cards are yet to be seen. It's this new rarity that's come out in Mega Evolution. Will they be sought after? Will they be the next Rainbow Rares? Time will tell there. But the other 3 cards inside the top 5 from Phantasmal Flames, it's literally a 2-hit combo, and if you don't hit one of those, it's bang or bust. Those cards like that Mega Sharpedo, like that'll tank to a $5 to $10 card so quickly, it's not funny. Twilight Masquerade, just in my opinion, does have the slightly better top 5. So if it's a long-term investment, even the look of the booster box, these Mega Evolution boxes, when they're sealed, they're very boring looking, aren't they? Like it's just black on the front, which I get it, it's like that smoked out or blacked out look, but it doesn't do much as a display piece, really, does it? You know, it's not as beautiful to look at as some of those older booster boxes we've had. For my money, if you're looking at a long-term investment, I would park my money into Twilight Masquerade. There we go. This booster box or that booster box, fun little video to start off 2026. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Catch you next time.